Yeah, another narrative to control. Everyone sign up for the membership. Join our Discord. It's a lot of fun.
I just don't think he has it anymore.
Melo's the role he didn't want in
Carmelo Anthony drills it straight away.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the 64th episode of Control the Narrative. We're a podcast that controls the narrative that the media creates. If you're new around here, subscribe to catch our weekly podcast. And if you're a returner, we appreciate your attention as always. And if you have not yet, go to CTRLthenarrative.com, CTRLthenarrative.com to go sign up to become a Control the Narrative member, where you can get access to our invite-only Discord. You could get sticker packs. You could get merch discounts, and you could get a chance to appear on a podcast like my guy Evan is, which we'll get to in a minute. But CTRLthenarrative.com, tiers start at $2 a month, and you could come chop it up with us about Melo all times of the day, all times of the night, and really just continue building this community and also continue being on the right side of history with the Control the Narrative membership. So with that being said, we have a return visitor, Evan Gladstone. Evan, what's good, bro?
Hey, I appreciate you having me again.
Of course, man. Evan is a member, Control the Narrative member, so appreciate you signing up. And like we just said, I think you were the first one, so that means a lot, being like the first one. You didn't know if other people were doing it. You just hopped into it. So of course, I appreciate that, man. But let's get to it. Episode 64. Last time, I don't remember what number episode you were on, but you were on, I think, like after the bubble, right? Or it was right before the bubble?
Before. I think it was June.
It was before the bubble. Sometime then. And we learned a little bit about how you started like in Melo and how you got into basketball. So one thing that we've picked up since then is we ask everyone what's your most underrated Melo moment or game and why. So obviously very subjective, but what do you think it is for you?
Personally, for me, it's got to be that Houston seeding the bubble games last August, where he made those two defensive plays at the end, stripping James Harden, then forcing another turnover. And I just think it was such like poetic justice of getting cut from a Houston team that said he couldn't play defense, and then like in the fourth quarter, tight game, clutch minutes, just forces two turnovers back to back. I thought that was beautiful.
And then he hit a clutch shot with like under a minute left. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that three, top of the key. So satisfying.
That's a good one. You know, a lot of people, when we ask them this question, they go like to the Nuggets days, to the Knicks days, and you know, because all this Blazer shit is so fresh in our mind. But that's a good one, especially against the Rockets, especially because he did what they said he couldn't do in clutch moments. So I like that. Rockets in the bubble. That's a good one. Let's get to the Blazers nowadays. It's been a wild few weeks. Obviously, the trade deadline, Norman Powell, we've spoken about that. CJ Nurk coming back. Melo scoring, dipping as of late. So specifically on this Melo scoring part, do you think this is just part of the season where he's just in a little dip, or do you think there's something more concerning that you're like, shit, this might be the case for the rest of the season?
To be brutally honest, well, I don't think it comes down to Melo. I think it comes down to how Portland's using him. Like, I think he's fine. Like, he had a rough game against Milwaukee, but that was just a game. But I think it comes down to their offensive sets, and it's about how they're looking for him. Because as you saw so many times, like when they look for him, when they get him in his spots, he's gonna produce efficiently and help them win games. But when they're icing him out of the offense for minutes at a time, and he's just standing there. First of all, I've said this to you before. If Carmelo's not on the court to shoot, what's he on the court for? Of course, we've controlled the narrative. He can defend and play make, but he's a scorer. So if he's not shooting the ball, why are you playing him? So I think it comes down to if they're going to start getting him the ball back in the low post. I see them looking for it less and less, especially after that Norman Powell trade. So I'm not concerned about Carmelo's ability to score. I'm more concerned about how they're going to use him, and then come playoff time, if they're going to look for him. And then on top of that, secondly, I think a big thing they're missing about giving it to him in the post is I think the post, just as a basketball fan in general, I think there's so much playmaking ability in the post. And you see when he gets to draw his double teams at almost age 37, but when he draws doubles, that's a good offensive strategy to get a man open. It's almost like they know sometimes he's going to get doubled, so they don't pass to him because he's going to get doubled. But if you have a man that can generate offense by holding the ball, just having it in his hands, because then it gets someone open, use him to your advantage. They know he's a willing passer, and there's just so much that could be generated by incorporating him to the offense more.
I like that. I'm literally writing that down because I want to use that clip for one of our social clips. But that's a great point. Like, it's the same thing with Dame, right? Like when they give the ball to Dame, or when he brings it up and he like crosses half court, like a lot of teams double him, and then you have 4-on-3.
Exactly.
So if you could do the same thing in a half court set, with Melo, when there's 10 seconds on the clock and like somebody's going to be open, and he's shown even this season that he can make those passes. I don't understand why they don't do that more often. I think one thing that's interesting. So to be clear, you think that there's something more to this, that this isn't just like a little dip?
I think it's hard to say. It depends how Portland's going to treat it, because I don't know what they're going to do. I'm not concerned with Carmelo's shooting or anything.
Fair. Yeah, I think to be honest with you, I do think it's going to be a thing that goes for the rest of the season, just because Norman Powell, he's such a major part of the offense, even if it's not shooting as much. And like, I should have pulled these numbers up. I feel like I say this every week. I should have done this, but Gary Trent and Norman Powell, I'm sure if we look at the field goal attempts, we're shooting similar field goal attempts, but Norman Powell just has the ball in his hands so much more than Gary Trent does, because he's a playmaker. Exactly. Like Gary Trent wasn't. So even just that, like running the offense through Norman Powell more than they were with Trent, is taking the ball away from Melo, not allowing him to get in that rhythm. So when he does get shots, he's not, he doesn't know where the back of the rim is. And like I said, if you're a shooter, like what I'm talking about. So that's the one part where like I kind of agree with you, where I'm just like, it is concerning, not because Melo's been playing like shit. He hasn't been playing great on offense in terms of his field goal percentage, but I think there's something more there. And I think what's going to be interesting is once playoff time comes, when teams do go to more one-on-one, especially in the fourth quarter, and like defenses really crack down, when they know that the Blazers give the ball to Melo to elbow, and like they know what he's going to do, and he still does his thing. So I think that's going to be really interesting. I almost feel like if we take his stats from right now to the end of the season, they won't be as good as they will be in the playoffs, just because he's such integral piece of this offense in the playoffs. And like just guys like that could get you a bucket just by holding the ball, getting double teams. I like that. He's getting a double teamed by literally just holding the ball. And how many players can you say that? Especially off the bench, and especially off a veteran's minimum contract.
Exactly.
So I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a little concerned in terms of Melo's production, just because I really want him to get to number 9 on the all-time scoring list. And I think he needs to average like 13 for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
and I think he's at like 13.8 or some bullshit like that. But I really want him to get to number 9. And in the playoffs, I think he'll be fine. But just for now, I'm a little concerned, I'll be honest.
Yeah, and like you said, I think there's almost a connection, as you said, to how his scoring, he is playing slightly worse with the shooting, and I think that comes from not getting the ball, because like when I said, you're iced from the offense for like 5 minutes, not touching the ball. So when he does touch the ball, he's like, all right, I'm going to try to get a shot this possession, because I don't know the next time I'm going to touch the ball.
I feel
so that just leads to a less efficient shot instead of him with his like nice close turnaround. And then like clearly it's a better shot when he gets in the post and does like a little turnaround rather than trying to like cross up the bigger guys. It's much easier for him, you could tell.
Yeah, that's also a good point, because I felt honestly like that sometimes he gets it and sometimes he feels like he has to shoot it because he's like, shit, I don't know.
Yeah, you could see it. You could see it.
Yeah, and it's not good. Like we're not sitting here and be like, oh, it's the right thing to do, but he's there to score, and if he doesn't, he feels like he doesn't do his job, and that doesn't mean he's a fucking anyway. We talked about Bills before, so what's crazy is the Blazers have been winning games. They haven't. Somebody commented on our Instagram today talking about a few people did, how they haven't really been winning games against good teams, which is fair. Like they just got blown out by the Bucks, they got blown out by the Mavericks, and things like that. But they've also beat the Mavericks, they've also beat Miami, so they've also won against good teams. Do you think this strategy that the Blazers have of we're just going to go out there and outscore people, we're going to try on defense here and there, but overall, like their strategy is just go and score more points than the other team? Do you think they can continue doing that against good teams, like they're doing right now against bad teams?
100%. I think that's really their only option also, because like we said, their roster is made up of scorers primarily. So, I mean, it's not like they have the option, are we going to, like they're going to outscore other teams. And for everyone who saw the Milwaukee game, the Blazers could have won that game. I know it was like kind of a blowout, but if you watch that, they were missing shots they normally make and like a lot. And it was a game where if they were shooting how they normally shoot, it would have been a close game at the end. And then Dame time, you don't know what happens. But like I said, their defense, that was not a lucky game for Giannis. There is not a single player on the Blazers roster that could have defended Giannis. And he went like 18 for 21 from the field. And it's tough. But I mean, you have Robert Covington, who's like a solid 6 inches shorter than him. Derrick Jones Jr. would get bodied by him. And Carmelo just not as quick as him at his age. So there really is no one in Portland that could defend someone like Giannis. But if they were making those shots, it's a game. So I think on any given night, Portland could win games with their shooting.
Fair. I think they can too. Like I'm gonna take a different route to it, but I think they can because they did it in the bubble and we saw it. And you know, you're just gonna have some bad shooting nights like they did against Milwaukee. You're gonna have some bad shooting nights like they did last year in the playoffs against the Lakers. But what's really frustrating is that they don't try anything differently. Like there's nobody in the NBA really that could guard Giannis one-on-one. But like they don't try anything. Like they rarely doubled Giannis. They just had Rocco on him. Like try doubling him, try getting the ball out of his hands. Yes, they have shooters everywhere. I get it. Like it's like the 2009 Magic where they had one dominating guy in Dwight Howard and just a bunch of shooters. Like I get it, but at the same time, if a guy is shooting 18 of 21, fucking try something.
Yeah.
Like try something. So whether that's Rocco and Nurkic, whether that's Rocco and Melo, or like whatever, like figure some shit out. But at the end of the day, there are very few teams who I believe offensively can hang with the Blazers when they're having their average night. And like they go through ups and downs during the season, but more importantly in each game where they'll be cold for 6 minutes and then they'll go and CJ will come down, hit a three, Dame will come down, hit a three, Melo will come down, hit a three, and then Nurkic will dunk. And like that's just how it is. So I think it evens out, and I do believe that they can beat good teams because we saw it in the bubble. So, you know, they didn't get – I don't want to say they didn't get much worse, but, like, they're arguably the same team for the most part as they were in the bubble. Like, you substitute Gary Trent for Norman Powell, but also Gary Trent was a dog on defense there, so you downgrade a little bit there. But I think they can. I think what you said is their only option because – I don't even personally think it's because they don't have the guys on the roster who can defend. I think it's just that the coach puts this one strategy and they rarely, like, they've run zone a few times, they've trapped guys a few times, but they're just not a scary team defensively. And it's like if you don't outscore the other team, then you're really going to have no shot if you're the Blazers.
Yeah, and I didn't even mean they don't have the guys. I meant primarily for a guy like Giannis.
Fair.
That's just – he's a freak of nature, and at that position, at like a tall, quick, heavy power forward. I mean, I don't even know, like you said, what guy in the NBA they could get to defend him. But yeah, that's what I meant.
Fair. One thing that stats tell us, and also that like you just realize watching the game, which I think is fucking, it makes sense, but it's fucking wild, is at the end of the games, I think it was like last 6 minutes of games, the Blazers are one of the better defensive teams in the NBA. So my question to you is, does it just come down to effort with this team on defense, or is there like something else that that stops them from being a good defensive team, really like a respectable defensive team the first 3.5 quarters?
I think there's a couple things. First, what I think is most obvious is typically you see them sub out like Ennis at the end, and when they're playing like Melo in the 3 forward rotation, it's already a better defensive unit because Ennis really can't stop many people. But also, I think this might be an unpopular opinion, and I don't think it's something many NBA fans think about. But when you're an offensive team like Portland, and you have so much offensive firepower, the opportunity cost of going all out on defense every possession, all 48 minutes, when you have guys that are playing like Lillard and McCollum who are playing 35, 36, like 37 minutes, they expend a lot of energy to score the points they do. And I don't know if it's possible to keep up that point production while putting that much effort all 48 minutes. And I think there's kind of some sacrifice. And obviously, like, you put an effort when you're on the floor, but I think it's a little more complicated than it looks.
Fair.
I think that's why at the end of games, when it's like you just put out all you have left in the tank, they have a lot more capabilities. So yeah.
And just going off that, I feel like sometimes down the stretches they struggle offensively. Like Dame is Dame, but like I feel like CJ struggles. A lot of the players have struggled offense. Do you think it's because they shift energy from offense to defense?
Yeah,
I really almost rely on Dame, right? It's almost like just give it to Dame and get out of the way.
Yeah, because think about how much each individual player, the energy they use to score. Like CJ McCollum, he's so crafty. He's one of my favorite players to watch isolate in the NBA. But like doing all those moves to get the looks he gets, that takes a lot of energy. And it's like when you're just watching on the TV, you don't think about the effort to get that shot, but it's tough. So if you're locking up and you're just tired at the end of the game and you're gassed, it's hard. So I totally understand the shift there.
That's a great point. I even think about that. Like, I tweet this all the time, and I think about this watching the games. Is like they get Dame no open looks, just like off the ball. All the off the ball shit they do for Dame is like so he doesn't have to bring it up, and he just runs a pick and roll like at the 3-point line, elbow extended, instead of running a pick and roll at the top of the key, bringing up the ball, which is like wild to me how they haven't figured out a way to get him open looks when you see how many open looks Curry gets. And even this year, right, the Warriors do not have a good roster around Curry. He still gets open looks. In all the years past, like obviously you don't have Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant on this team, but you have CJ McCollum, you have Carmelo, you have Norman Powell, you have Nurkic. Like you have guys who take attention away from Dame offensively. Like, yes, he is an MVP candidate and all this shit, but these other guys on the floor aren't fucking scrubs on offense. So there's no reason that Dame shouldn't be getting open looks like he isn't right now. Like, it just makes no sense to me. So, yeah, that's a great point. Like, they have to extend so much energy for Dame, CJ, even Melo. Like, Melo gets open looks and spot up threes and shit like that. But when he gets the ball, like, he goes to work on the block or elbow, whatever the fuck the case is. So all of these guys expend a lot of energy. So I think that's a really interesting point. To me personally, I think that while I do not believe Terry Stotts' strategy of just switch everything and go under the screen and like all this stupid shit that he does and like not trapping, pretty much like not being creative, while I don't think it's the right way to play it, I do feel like there's some times where they just go out there on defense and they don't try. And like maybe it is because they spend so much energy on offense, or maybe they don't care. Maybe the coach doesn't prioritize. Like, I don't know. We're not in the locker room. But I do feel like sometimes the way this team plays on defense, it literally just comes down to effort. Cantor, there's only so much he can do. Certain guys on the team, like, they're not going to lock people down, but they just give up so many open looks and they just get so many mismatches so quick and they switch so easily. And it's really frustrating to watch, especially when you see the stats and they tell you that, they're really good on defense in the last 6 minutes. It's like, all right, well, just if you could be fucking half of that, like, don't be a top 5 team in defense because that's not going to happen. Be a top 15 team like Stotts challenged them to after the All-Star weekend. And like, this team is so legit, and I feel like I keep saying the same thing over and over. Just like be respectable on defense, and this team could really go somewhere.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Word. All right, another quote. My third favorite player of all time said this within the past week. He said that he wishes that Melo would have left the Knicks earlier and gone to Portland, because if he did, quote unquote, the Blazers might have been champions. Obviously, we know that at first he got traded to OKC when there were some Portland rumors. Then he signed with Houston. Weren't too many Portland rumors, but like they were always kind of linked to each other. Like this might be a destination. Do you agree with Kenyon Martin, Kmart, that had Melo gone to the Blazers a few years earlier? Let's use the OKC year when he got traded there. If he was traded to Portland that season, so for the 17-18 season, would the Blazers be NBA champions?
I find that really interesting because, well, like when I heard that quote, I was also thinking like the year he's referring to really is 2017 offseason. That's like the most realistic year he would have potentially gone to Portland. And to me, I don't think OKC Melo is like, I don't think Melo's worse now in like to a point where it would change from contender to non-contender now than he was on OKC. I think he's as a legitimate scorer now as 3 years ago. I mean, yeah, it was only 3 years ago.
Yep.
And I think they're contenders now. So I really think, I think their roster, they had like Alfred Camino, Mo Harkless, and I feel like that was probably a better defensive team. So it probably would have been better balance. But yeah, like I think they're contenders now. I think they would have been contenders back then. But like I said, I don't think 34-year-old Melo is that different than 37-year-old Melo.
I agree. But we need an answer out of you. Do they win the championship?
Yeah, I think it's a good shot.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm going to look at the 2018 NBA playoff bracket.
Oh, I forgot it. I completely forgot about. Okay.
What?
Warriors with KD, kind of hard to beat. So I think they would have a more legitimate shot this year than that year. But in terms of being contenders, they're right up there.
Or fuck it, even the year the Blazers got to the conference finals. Like, throw Melo on that team too.
Every year, they're contenders with Melo if they use him.
And that year that Melo would have been traded there, that was the year that the Pelicans swept them, the Blazers. Remember that? They embarrassed the shit out of them. The Pelicans lost to the Warriors 4-1 in the semifinals. The Warriors beat the Rockets in 7. That was that year that they won in 7.
Threes.
CP got hurt. Yep. And then they swept the Cavs in the finals. So honestly, I feel like if Melo was on the Blazers in 18-19, when the Blazers made a Western Conference Finals push appearance, and then they just got completely like Dame just couldn't do shit, and the other guys didn't step up, and I'm pretty sure they got swept in the conference finals.
I think you're right.
By the Warriors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. They got swept. So, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say that Melo would have won 4 games for the Blazers
against Durant the Warriors.
Yeah. I'm not going to say that. But what I will say is everything changes because Dame has another outlet. It was literally him or CJ. And I think shit is way, way more interesting. So I love Kmart. Would they have been champions? I do not believe so, just because the Warriors were the Warriors back then. And I don't think Dame, CJ, and Melo were better than Curry, Clay, KD, and Draymond, and just like everything that they had going on back then.
Their system was great too, yeah.
Like it was really like an amazing dynasty to watch, and like I really like Curry, so, and I really hate LeBron, so it's kind of nice seeing them beat the Cavs in the finals almost every single year. But like I said, I do not believe that they would have been champions, but I do believe that everything changes because obviously, you know, Melo's a similar player today that like he was 3 years ago. And I definitely believe he would have gotten way more opportunity 3 years ago than he's getting today. And I think that changes shit. And it's hard to say Melo would have won 4 games for them 3 years ago.
Yeah, and I think that's funny you mentioned that he's the same player. He's really close to the same player he was 3 years ago, but he would have gotten more opportunity then. Comes back to the whole purpose of your entire platform. It's all the narrative.
Yep.
Because if he's the same player and it's different opportunity, it just comes down to how the media is portraying him and the fact that that could influence a whole team's offensive set, and it's just ridiculous.
Wild shit, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, man, it's just it's crazy. And then like, you know, even like the fucking I swear to God, I feel like the coaches get like influenced by this shit, where they're like, oh well, you know, we heard Melo's a bench player, so like let's look at the stats and let's try to find reasons that Melo's a bench player.
Advanced statistics. Gotta
yeah,
love it.
they gotta find something. The plus minus on like Tuesday nights when it's under like 30 degrees. Damn, if Melo's one of the worst on the teams, like he can't be starting. So it's just bullshit like that. But yeah,
Norman Powell can't.
But Norman, no. He's I've been watching him very closely on defense, because I haven't really watched a bunch of him in Toronto, and I wanted to see, right? Because if they were going with this, oh, we only care about defense, and then they start him over Derrick Jones, like I want to see why the fuck he's starting over Melo. So I've been watching him closely, and he's not a bad defender, but I don't think he's a great defender either. Like I don't think he's good on defense. I don't think he's bad. I feel like he's average, and I feel like Melo's average. So I don't know.
But like you said, compared to Derrick Jones Jr., he's a defender. Like that's why they have him. So if the whole thing was that Portland can't play defense, the fact that they trade for a scorer, put him in the starting lineup, it's just all these things don't link up, and it's kind of confusing. So I think they're just going all in on hoping to score more points than the other team. But if you were thinking that, why weren't you starting Melo the whole time?
Exactly.
So it's a loop. I don't even know how to think of it.
Their actions aren't matching up with their words. That's a perfect way of putting it. All right, Evan. That was good shit. We reached the end of this podcast. At the end of every podcast, we allow our guests to control a narrative. Doesn't have to be Melo related, doesn't have to be basketball related, doesn't have to be sports related. But anyway, I'm going to give you the floor and let you control a narrative.
Pretty simple for me this week. I just want to say to all those who are available now, and when it's your time, get a vaccine, because scientific evidence shows it's safe and effective. And if people want to return to life as normal, we're all in it together. And like you said, we want to do something big with Control the Narrative. The sooner everyone gets vaccinated, sooner everyone gets safe, sooner we can do the things we want to do.
It's funny that you said that. I was literally going to say, are you only saying this because you want to like have a Control the Narrative meetup or like an event?
Yep. Totally. Only thing I got going in my life right now. Control the Narrative meetup.
Oh, good shit, dude. All right, Evan. Appreciate the time. As always, we'll probably be having you on here some more because, like I said, for anyone who's listening or watching, we're picking our podcast guests from the membership Discord. So, I hit up Evan this morning. I was like, yo, do you want to hop on a podcast tonight? He was like, yeah, let's do it. Send him the topics, and here we are, not even 12 hours later, talking Melo. So, Evan, like I said, man, appreciate you for hopping on the podcast, but more importantly, becoming I'm going to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure you were the first member. So that means a lot, and I won't forget that, dude.
Yeah, another narrative to control. Everyone sign up for the membership. Join us. It's a lot of fun.
That's a good one. I love it.
Good conversations going during the games. Blazers chat, Knicks chat, Nuggets chat. Just come on, join.
Always. I appreciate that, man.
No
problem. All right, homie. Well, hope you have a great night, and I'll talk to you in the Discord.
All right. See ya.